To commemorate the founding of New Orleans in 1718, WYES presents this tricentennial moment in celebration of our city's past and present.
St. Mary's Assumption Catholic Church, a national historic landmark, is undoubtedly one of New Orleans' most beautiful and ornately designed churches. In the early 1850s, as the German Catholic population in New Orleans continued to grow, the need for a larger church was becoming necessary. Architect Albert Deitel was hired for the task, and in 1858 construction began on the corner of Constance and Josephine Streets. The Baroque architecture of St. Mary's is accented with details of elaborate brickwork by skilled masons of the day, while the interior is filled with examples of old-world craftsmanship, from the exposed beams on the ceiling to the pews that fill the church. The altar houses a showcase of saints and archangels, meticulously hand-carved in Munich, Germany. By the summer of 1860, construction of St. Mary's Assumption Church was complete. The bell tower was constructed later, and the high altar was dedicated on Christmas Day in 1874. In 1866, Father Francis Xavier was appointed pastor of St. Mary's and quickly gained popularity among his German congregation. Sadly, he died of yellow fever a year later. The National Shrine of Blessed Francis Xavier Seelos is located next to the church. In 1965, severe damage by Hurricane Betsy closed St. Mary's temporarily, and the church barely escaped demolition. It sustained damage during Hurricane Katrina, but is now restored, including its historic bell tower. Today, St. Mary's Assumption Church still celebrates Mass daily. Francis Xavier Seelos was born January 11, 1819, in Füssen, Bavaria, Germany. He was driven by his faith to help the poor and abandoned. After studying philosophy, Seelos entered the seminary in 1842. He arrived in New York the following year, and by December of 1844, he was ordained in the Redemptorist Church of St. James in Baltimore, Maryland. Though he focused on ministering to German immigrants here in the United States, he was known as a man of humble means, deep compassion, and kindness to anyone who sought his guidance. Father Seelos would preach simply, in English and German. His sermons were easily understood by his entire congregation, no matter their education, social status, or ethnicity. After ministering for 22 years in 10 different states, Father Seelos was transferred to New Orleans in 1866. He served as pastor of St. Mary's Assumption Church, the first German Catholic church in New Orleans, and today home to the National Shrine of Blessed Francis Xavier Seelos. He ministered to the most needy, including the sick and dying, many victims of yellow fever, all the while gaining popularity as the cheerful ascetic. Father Seelos was only in New Orleans a year before yellow fever claimed his life on October 4, 1867. In 2000, he was beatified by the Catholic Church. October 5th is Father Seelos' feast day.
WYS's New Orleans Tricentennial Moments are brought to you by the Miro Foundation and presented in association with the Historic New Orleans Collection. Additional support provided by the Gail and Tom Benson Charitable Foundation.